It is Flames Unfiltered, talking Flames hockey every single week. I am the host of the show, Brad Burud, and the host, Kyle Lewis, joins me. Kyle, bad mood, good mood?
I'm really hyper right now. I don't really know why.
Hyper?
Yeah, it's a long day at work, and we have no positive news to discuss.
We don't. See, you know, this... So, last week we were on the show, and it was brimming.
So
it was brimming with
so
good.
It was great.
And this week, when I came up with my list of things to talk about, I'm not sure there's one positive thing.
No,
Power play.
Yeah, the power play is scoring, and we're losing every game.
It's a lot of negativity today.
I might have some silver linings here that'll dig into a little bit, but it's a stretch. And there was even more difficult news today. So where do we even begin, Brad? How do we do this?
Let's start first of all with the jackass that I am, and I forget Kyle's birthday. Yeah, I forget your birthday. But you know what? There is one good thing that came out of this. As soon as I got off the phone with you today, and I felt like such a jackass, I went onto my calendar, on my iPhone, and I figured out that if you put something in, you can click to have it just come up that day every year. Now, I know I'm able to put this podcast out every week, but I didn't know you could do that. But I did. I figured it out today.
And I'm not even upset, other than by the fact that I did like a really nice like Facebook post on your birthday.
Very nice, and that's part of the hefty guilt I'm feeling now.
Is it like, are you Catholic?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's not as, I can promise you, I'm not Catholic either, but my best friend is, and there's nothing quite like Catholic guilt. So at least it's not that.
I'm feeling close though. I'm feeling bad.
Oh, okay. Let me make you feel better. Said best friend, who I'm now about to roast on this podcast, I called him yesterday at 3:00, and I would never do this, but I called him at 3:00. I'm like, okay, man, I'm calling it. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm calling you out. He's like, ah. I'm like, dude, what's the date today? Dead silence. He's like, fuck. And he called me today because he still feels guilty.
Do you want to know? I mean, I'm not making excuses for my stupidity in this whole matter, but when the calendar turns over to a new day at the beginning of a week, you can't look ahead.
You know what? There's another piece of this too that I remember hearing years ago.
You thought my excuse was shit. Yeah. Okay.
No, it wasn't that bad. I've heard worse. But I was told, or I've heard many jokes over the years, I should say, about how like being born in December, nobody gives a shit about your birthday because it's too close to Christmas. And I have found this to be true.
My grandfather's was on the 25th, which is Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And he told me that he got screwed every year of his life because he would everybody would just be like, oh, that's your birthday and Christmas gift.
Oh, that's not okay.
That's not okay. He told me, he was like, man, because I was bitching about mine being on Thanksgiving a lot, on American Thanksgiving. And he's like, oh, no, this is when you get screwed, is when you have it right on Christmas Day. So,
right.
All right.
Wow. Well, despite all the misery surrounding us, we're actually off to a pretty funny start on the show. So kudos to us.
Yes.
And your belated birthday wishes are appreciated just the same.
Well, happy birthday to both of us since we last talked.
Yeah, we both have birthdays.
All right.
Both older, not necessarily wiser.
No, I don't know if I think I'm dumber this week. I really do. Perspective. So I saw this graphic, and it said the story of 4 different fan bases.
Uh-oh.
It said that the Sharks, it showed 7, 12, and 5, and the caption said this season has been so much fun and exciting. And then it said the Buffalo Sabres 11, 9, and 1. We might actually make the playoffs this season. Let's fucking go. Then it showed New York Rangers at 12, 7, and 1 and said, blow this fucking team up. And then it showed the Calgary Flames at 12, 7, and 3 and said, how the fuck are we this good? What does it say? how the fuck are we this good? This is insane to watch. And then we rattled off 4 straight losses. And with 4 straight losses comes Facebook profile pictures like this. and when I saw you post that, I'm not going to lie. The Pittsburgh game, I went to a junior hockey game. I watched the first period and went to the junior hockey game. During the middle of the third period, my daughter proceeded to say to me, "Hey, let's watch the Flames game when we get home." Which I quickly said, "You can watch the damn Flames game. I am not watching this shit show," because it just, by what I was listening to on the radio, I'm a goofball. I listened to the Flames game on the radio while I'm at a junior game. It didn't sound like anything I wanted to watch.
Yeah, right. The funny thing is people like the hat so much in that picture. That's what drew most of the attention. Although henceforth we will have to use that photo to voice our displeasure in our tweets. It may go viral because it pretty well sums it up because we have been awful.
Last Monday, we go 4-3 loss in Ottawa. I thought a very unemotional, bad game.
I gave a buddy my tickets to that game actually, and it wasn't good.
And then 2 days later on Wednesday in Detroit, I'm excited for this game. I don't know why I was excited to watch this game. I was pumped, and I don't know. It was awful. I don't know. How about, okay, we lose 2-1. Talk to me about this too many men on the ice.
Well, it's funny when you tweet your rage, as I often do. One of which I'll get to shortly, because it got a lot of attention. But in the Detroit game, what I don't understand is 99% of the time, like technically, is it too many men? Sure. Is any ref ever going to call that? Absolutely not. Not a hope in hell. So
I thought it was a bad call. I don't think really I don't even think any Detroit fans even thought it was appropriate.
I think they were shocked to see that was a power play. I mean, they're kidding themselves if they say otherwise.
I agree. It was just bad. It was bad. Things got worse. Black Friday afternoon game. You know how much I love those. I take the day off from work. I stay home to watch this game. And I'm not going to lie. I caught myself dozing off a couple times. I hated this game. It was a physical game. It was a dirty game. There was fights. And there was just a lot of meaningless shit. Is there any way to describe that?
No, that's pretty well. And that's the tweet of mine that, I'll bring it up actually, because it's still getting retweeted and liked. And I mean, it right here. Yeah, I kind of got flamed for, pardon the phrase, for being so vocal about it. But it's like, asking for retweets. I forget, somebody called me like a 16-year-old girl or something, which I couldn't care less about. But yeah, like it was a flagrant hit from behind. Like that's an automatic game misconduct.
Have you watched it? And I'm not defending the hit, but have you watched it a couple times? I thought,
yeah.
I thought it was pretty textbook checking from behind, and I thought it was pretty easy call to make, and then they just didn't make this.
I couldn't believe it, and like when I tweeted about it, basically saying like, "Hey NHL," which I also got torched for tagging NHL. I don't care.
Why?
But
did you not that?
Oh, because I guess apparently it's lame to tag somebody in a tweet. I don't know.
Is that not politically correct anymore?
I don't know. I have no idea. But the point is that it wasn't even a case where the player turned to the last second, as they often do in these situations. It was a flagrant hit from behind. So this got 17 comments, 76 retweets, 281 likes. So clearly it resonated with them. But the reality is it's just about consistency. And I really felt that the NHL in this case should have explained why this was not a major penalty, especially where it was originally one. The replays only reinforced that it should have been one. And it gets turned into 2 minutes for boarding. And it's like, are you kidding me? And I'm not concerned about the Flames winning or losing that game at that point. It is what it is. What I'm concerned about is that this is the precedent. So now you're saying it's okay to hit people from behind. It's okay. There's no issue with that.
The league talks so much about protecting its players.
Right.
But then when situations such as this arise, I sit and look. And I'm not going to lie to you. If this was a role reversal, and I can liken it to last year, I believe it was in Detroit, when Rasmus Anderson hit somebody right at the horn. That was Patrick Laine in Columbus.
Yep.
Last year, right at the horn, and got a suspension for it. It was a reckless play. It was a dirty play. It was a play, albeit this one was into the boards, that was as reckless as this play. And nothing comes out of this other than a 2-minute penalty. And then to top it off, Pospisil has to fight one of the toughest guys in the league. Thank goodness Braden Pahal stepped in, because anytime Pospisil's fighting, I'm scared. I'm scared. Not that I don't think he can handle himself. Because he proved that against Christensen earlier in the game. I'm worried about his history of concussions. Braden Pahal probably should have got more for stepping in my mind. I thought he was going to be history. The whole thing was just a bunch of bad calls, one after another.
Well, it was just what happens in hockey, and no matter what level, no matter what age, the players will take it into their own hands. And that's entirely on the referees. The referees completely botched this entire hockey game from start to finish, and they embarrassed themselves. And as usual with the NHL, there is no accountability, there's no responsibility, and that's where I take issue. I've never been afraid to say, like, if a Flames player does something flagrantly stupid, I'll call them out on it.
Yep.
You know, a bad hockey play is bad. Well, it's not even a hockey play, really. But this was a case of the refs not doing their jobs and failing miserably at their jobs. And the sad part is, if Ryan Huska or anybody else had, decided to call them out on it, they'd be fined for it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it in any other job in the world you can be called out on your shit and expect to take it on the chin? If you're an NHL ref, it's a flagrant violation of human rights to say, hey, they did a shit job tonight. They should have pulled their whistles out. They should have put their whistles away, whatever the case may be.
I would be fine if the league came out and said, yeah, there was some questionable things. Referees had a tough night, and we're taking action to make sure that we can limit these nights, because they're never going to go away. But we're going to do our action to limit these as much as we can. I'd be fine with that, right? Wouldn't everybody be fine with that? Because you know what? I don't expect them to be perfect. But God, I just look at the replays on this, and it's like, I don't know how you change this call. They made the right call. And
well, it's not to say that, and Brian Lomberg echoed this. It's not to say that Olivier is a dirty player. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who scouts for the NHL team today, and he's like, Olivier is a great kid from a great family. Had him in the Quebec League, thought the world of him. He was a captain at the junior level. He's a really, really good kid. It was just a dumb play, and it happens. But what makes me laugh about it all, it's like Tim Peel gets caught on the mic admitting to doing a makeup call. It gets banished from the NHL forever, so now he's just this whining prima donna on Twitter because he has nothing else to do with his time. So they have no problem banishing someone when they'll admit that they're doing something.
Yeah.
But the NHL will never, as you just said, they'll never just come out and say, you know what, this game got a bit out of hand. We've talked to the officials involved and reviewed the penalties that were called. We've discussed the matter internally, and that's our only comment. Okay, great. You talked about it. That's all we wanted you to do.
I can live with that, right?
But they're just so pretentious, just such a douchebags. Anyway.
What did you feel that Lomberg had to go fight him? Because I didn't feel that was necessary. And I'm an old school guy, man. I'm as old school as they come. I'm just at this point. I mean, Pospisil had already done the thing that Kadri should have done, but Pospisil had to do it because Kadri doesn't do anything. And then, and then Lomberg comes off and fights extremely way out of his weight class. And
yeah,
I don't know. I just didn't feel like he had to go get beat up on that one.
Well, the only reason he did is because the refs didn't do their job.
Yep.
And Robert Munich had made we talk about him all the time because he has a lot of great takes, and this was one of them.
He has amazing takes, yeah.
Yeah, and he was 100% right about that. Lomberg, what alternative was there? There has to be some kind of response to that, and as archaic and stupid as we both might think it is, especially when a guy gives up 4 inches and 50 pounds, whatever it was. It's like, you know what? The refs, if you did your damn job, this wouldn't be an issue. And Lomberg was pretty banged up after that. He's one of the toughest guys in the league, thankfully, but there's no need of it. And that fight is solely because of the refs. It's entirely their fault, and that needs to be recognized. So let's move on to the misery that was the Pittsburgh game.
It wasn't any better, and it was a 6-2 win, but I almost call this a 6-0 win when the goals at the end were completely meaningless goals.
Yeah.
The game was so checked out. The Flames at the end of the first were completely checked out.
Oh, it was bad. It was real bad. I'll be honest, I stopped watching and I never watched the highlights. I just watched WWE Survivor Series War Games because I was like, oh, which one am I going to watch? And I'm like, I'm not watching this crap. Like, this is a team that doesn't want to play tonight. Forget about it.
I watched the first period. I went to the game. I came back and I did watch, albeit I fast forwarded through parts yesterday of the game so I could know what I was talking about. But I don't know. I mean, with that loss, this turns into a complete road trip, not from hell, but to hell, because we're heading in the wrong direction here.
Yeah.
With 7-5-3 in November, 34 goals scored, 22 straight games without scoring 3 or more goals.
Yeah.
That's not working.
Well, the thing that I took issue with is like some people saying, like, oh, that we all knew they were going to regress. Yeah, we all knew that. We knew they weren't as good as they seemed to be. What I can't believe is how horrific the offense has been. And that's on Sharangovich had a little bit of a streak there, but Sharangovich, Huberdeau, Kadri, Blake Coleman is way down from his season last year, which I didn't expect him to repeat it anyway. But this team is completely anemic. And then I have people, that are trying to say, well, this isn't the worst offense they've ever had. It's trending that it will be, or be very, very close. I think they referenced like the 2011, 2012 Flames, and the numbers were like barely any different. And that team at least had a 30-some goal scorer in Jerome McGinley.
Why are we comparing shit to shit here? People can argue.
They're trying to make the argument that it's not that bad. I'm like, no, it is that bad.
It's that bad. It is.
It's horrendous.
It is. And it starts with, I'm pointing my finger at 2 guys. This is a 2-guy problem. Well, it's more than 2. There's a problem, but 2 guys are glaringly problemed here. I am sick of Nazem Kadri. I'm sick of his attitude. I'm sick of his work ethic. I'm sick of his play. He preaches that he's a leader on this team. I call bullshit, because bullshit. Leaders don't do this. Don't act the way he is. He is a complete checked out of 80% of the games I've watched this year. His goals he's scored has been, albeit a couple good important goals, have been cake goals at the end of games. I'm sick of him. He's on an all-time low production rate. His attitude's horseshit, and I'm sick of watching Nazem Kadri. And to top it off, I'm as sick of watching Kuzmenko out there, because Kuzmenko doesn't look like he cares either. Doesn't look like he's trying. We thought Zadorov was a problem last year. These 2 make Zadorov look like a team player.
It's funny. Actually, Robert Munich tweeted today how against 3 different skating stats, Kuzmenko is amongst the slowest players in the league.
He's awful. He's awful.
The good news.
So listen to this. Ian Clark posted this. Huberdeau, Kadri, and Kuzmenko those 3 players are a combined minus 24 and have less combined points than any of Necas, Kaprizov, McKinnon, or Eichel alone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Kadri is he is tied for the 5th worst in the entire league at minus 14.
Yeah. Yeah. I know sometimes people say plus minus is a team stat, but in certain cases. It is a team stat that is reflective on the player on the ice, and it's him. Well, if you're 3 or 4 games over 500 and you have a player's minus 14, I'm inclined to think that's far more on the player than on the team.
Well, especially when the next closest Flames minus 7.
Yeah,
that's a problem, right? Because you're
holding. Oh, good God.
It's bad. It's really, really bad. And you know what's a problem? And you know what really scares me about this? And we all were fine with a rebuild, and we were all fine with a downtick. But when you have that, you have to have leaders to pull this team through. Now, the thing is, Backlund, and I know Coleman's off to a rough start this year, but Coleman's still working his ass off, right? But when you have guys like Kuzmenko and Kadri in the locker room and putting forth the effort they're putting out and their mannerisms, this is not what you want to build young players around. It's not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We're taking penalties. We were outscored on this 4-game road trip. We were outscored 16-8. We allowed 8 power play goals. Our penalty kill 59.8, I believe.
Ugh. This is getting worse and worse.
This is bad. We took 20 penalties that were like, I don't know how many of them were offensive zone, but a lot of them were. Huberdeau is a master at that. I mean, this team, holy crap. November is done and it was bad. What are we going to say at the end of December?
Well, again, some positives because God knows we need them.
Well, fire them at me. Then I want to talk about the American Thanksgiving marker, which is some positives, but fire the positives at me.
Based on the line rushes today, it looks like Kuzmenko is not going to play against Columbus.
I did see that.
And it is time for him to sit because his lack of offense is becoming inexcusable. He's too skilled to be this bad, so it's time to come out. You got to sit. It's just enough's enough. He's the biggest reason I'm getting absolutely walloped in my hockey pool. He was a late pick that I took a flyer on. I really wish I hadn't. However, he needs to sit and hopefully he turns it around. The other positive is that the Flames have responded, albeit in part due to injuries, by recalling Huberdeau's son, as people like to jokingly refer to him as, Cgy Pit, and Walker Duehr, who went from NHL regular to AHL regular in really quick, almost unnoticed fashion. It's almost strange to see him back with the big club. It's been a long time, and I hope, this could be, I don't want to be over dramatic here, but it could be one of his last chances to become an NHL regular if he really asserts himself the same way that Justin Kirkland did, right?
I agree. So let me
hopefully these guys come in and make a change because they need to change up their team big time. So I hope these two help.
To make room for them, Kirkland goes on IR. Sounds more long-term than short-term. And Klapka's headed back to the AHL Wranglers. But you just said something really interesting about Walker Duehr I wanted to bring up. When I say Walker Duehr, do you think regular NHL player? And I love Walker Duehr, but do you really think that he is a day in and day out NHL player?
I don't know because he was and then he wasn't. I always thought he was like a kind of similar to Garner Hathaway in a sense. He could check, he could pot the occasional goal.
I agree. But then he wasn't popping the goals consistently
at all, and then he just disappeared. And I was surprised he disappeared for so long. I don't remember the last time Walker Duehr was on the roster.
He had a bad camp. He was horrible in camp too.
Yeah,
that doesn't help.
Yeah, is he from South Dakota or North Dakota? I forget.
Oh, South Dakota.
South Dakota. Okay.
When I say Justin Kirkland, do you consider him? And I know I might get crucified for this one because he's on the love bus in Calgary right now. But when I say Justin Kirkland, do you consider him an everyday NHL player? I
thought he was becoming one. I wasn't sure.
I'd have to see
a full. I want to see a full.
I'll give you that.
I want to see a full season from him. And it's funny. I almost said like full body of work, but I hate that phrase. It's so overused in hockey. It's just ugh. Anyway.
The full season.
Yeah,
that's
Kyle. Yeah, that's as far as I go. So I don't know. I'm the jury's still out on him, but he was certainly trending that way. He was still one of the Flames' more effective players amongst another 10 forwards who weren't doing anything. It felt like.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I like what he's done this year. He's been one of the few like pleasant surprises, right? I mean, so yeah, I'm all for that. I think you know where I'm coming from when I say, like, I don't know. I sit and I try to put what I want my vision for this rebuild and where I see these players, and I don't know. Is he fit in the mix in the fourth line? Probably, I guess. I think so, but let's give it some more time.
Well, it's all we can do at this point. We just gotta. I don't know. We're kind of in no man's land now. It's like this was so much fun, and then it's one thing to regress. It's another to get absolutely dummied night in, night out, and not be a competitive hockey team. And there's a lot of questions around a lot of these players, and hopefully, being back home starts to answer some of them.
Yeah. Let's talk about American Thanksgiving. It's a big marker in the National Hockey League in a day that everybody that's a fan looks at the standings, mostly because 76.7% of the teams in a spot at playoff spot at American Thanksgiving make the postseason. And I screenshotted the standings the morning of American Thanksgiving, and I'll put those up on the board here. the Flames are in, right? I mean, the Flames are in. That morning they were in second place in the Pacific with 28 points, 12-7-4. Would have been taking on LA if the playoffs started today. And if you want to even make the
home ice, no less.
with home ice, yeah. Which thank God, because we can't win on the road. Since COVID, there's been 80 teams that were in playoff spots at American Thanksgiving. 60 of them made it. So even since COVID, which has kind of been a marker for, I guess, everything in life.
Yeah, true.
The Flames would be in even following that level on a 75% click, and that's pretty damn good. I sit and I look at this and I look at where we're trending and I look at the standings today, and it scares me a little bit more. I mean, the Flames currently, as we are talking on a Monday evening, are sitting in a playoff spot, albeit the numbers don't look as good as the Flames sit in the bottom wild card spot with a stout Colorado Avalanche on their heels with just 2 points behind them. I worry mostly about offense. I still think our defense is fine. Our goaltending is leveled off. But you look at this number, right? 76, right? 76.7. I pull up Money Puck, and they still have us at 48.6% chance of getting the playoffs. So Money Puck sees it.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. First of all, the Colorado Avalanche have acquired a competent goaltender, Scott Wedgwood. That is going to help solve one of their, quite frankly, their biggest issue. So, the thing about that,
they've been doused with injuries all year too. So,
oh yeah. But the thing is too, like the American Thanksgiving stat is interesting, because I don't know how far back they track that, but there's more and more parity in the NHL. So if you look at the standings you just brought up, I mean, there's so many teams within 4 points of each other. It's like, all Calgary has to do is lose a handful more games and they're 500.
Yep.
Like they're not the poster child for the teams that make American Thanksgiving the marker. Like they're not that 77 point whatever percent. They're the other 22 point whatever percent.
Well, I sit and I look at this, right? And I like, okay, Minnesota and Winnipeg are sitting at 36 points. I don't think either one of those teams is going anywhere. And I don't think Dallas is either. I look at the Pacific and Vegas isn't going anywhere. And the Kings haven't given me any sign of going anywhere. And Vancouver's been hot lately, so I don't see them taking a big regression. Edmonton slowly but surely worked their way up into a wild card spot. I don't think the Flames are better than the Oilers are going to pass them. No. And Colorado is better than the Flames.
We don't have superstar power like Edmonton does. There you go.
I mean, if I was in Vegas, I'm putting it on that the Flames cannot sustain this. Now, have I been proven wrong before? And I sure as hell hope I am again. We'll see. But I do know a couple things. A lot needs to change. And it starts with winning on the road, too, because the Flames are a illustrious 3-6-4 away from home and 9-3 at home.
Yeah.
It's not good. And I've been diving into this a little bit more, too. And one of the things I noticed in this 4-game losing streak, and quite honestly, all year, and I don't know if you picked up on it, I'm sure you have, this team does not win faceoffs ever.
No, they can't win faceoffs and they can't kill penalties. That's a really bad combination.
Oh, here, I got stats on both of them because they were the 1-2 problems I got going right now.
Oh, man, these stats are depressing.
We're 20th or 29th in faceoffs at 44.4. Listen to who do you think is the Flames' best faceoff man?
Kevin Backlund?
No. Blake Coleman's at 57.1. He's not even a center.
He's a winger.
Yeah. This is a stat that surprised me. Sharon Govich, 52%.
Wow.
Backlund, 47.2. Rooney, 47.1. Nazem Kadri, 46.4. That's not a number you get from a big center. Kirkland's 42.9. And this is the one that scares me the most. Connor Zary, 31.7.
Yeah, well, thing in fairness to him is he's only just recently getting reps at center.
Yes,
so that will improve. I mean, Crosby got dummied in faceoffs his first league, and now he's unbeatable, right?
Yeah, it takes time. It takes time.
And that's the other thing. Like, if this team's going to improve at all, it's going to be largely around Connor Zary finally burying his litany of chances. He's in my mind right now, he's the only star player this team has. Even though we're paying certain people to be star players. And I'm not saying superstar because that's like McDavid level, but he's the only star we have at this moment. I'm hopeful Coronado can be another one. Huberdeau was one years ago, but I've pretty well given up on that.
I think we've all given up on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
So let's talk penalty kill then. The Flames are great. They're 30th in the league at 70.9. The problem is we're taking more penalties than we have all year, and they've been a lot of offensive zone lazy penalties. And that's
I see a lot of reaching going on, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not moving their feet.
Did you listen to the Fan 960 post-game show?
Lately? No.
No, because you've been going to bed because it's friggin' 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, it's not the show, but what they have to talk about.
Yeah. I got something I got a beef about. Every game I hear the word, well, they're tired. Yeah. And the person that keeps bringing it up over and over is Megan Mickelson, who talks about how hard this Flame schedule is. I'm sorry, it's an NHL schedule. They're all hard, right? They all go through difficulties. And every night she says this team's tired. She said they were tired after a 4-day break. I'm confused. I'm sorry. This is not tiredness. There's been a lot of lazy play lately. A lot of lazy play and a lot of passengers. Now, we have some guys that are busting their ass every night. I think of Blake Coleman. I think of Michael Backlund, Connor Zary. I think, those are the ones that stand out on the offensive side. Defense, I'm not complaining too much about. I just think that, like, you can't have Huberdeau, Kadri, Kuzmenko. You can't have that many guys on your team. And I sit and look at this offense and go, passenger. Sharon Govich, passenger a lot of nights. Pospisil's been up and down. Every night, the only guys I can depend on every single night in Calgary to come out with 100% is Lomberg, Backlund, Coronado, Coleman, and Zary. That's it. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting from night to night.
It kind of makes you pine for the days of the Daryl Sutter coached, 21-22 team where they were so fit, right? And it showed with their pace of play.
Are we out of shape or we just don't care? I don't know. I feel like we've got a couple
right now. I think we're out of answers. It's the problem.
I've rambled a lot.
Well, and and again, this is what I tried to say, and people, fought back on it or felt differently, and that's fine. A rebuild, there's a lot of different opinions out there, as there should be, and none are more valid than the next in most cases. But what I struggle with is people saying, "Oh, we knew they'd regress. It's like, okay, fine, yes, we knew they regressed. We knew that Wolf and Vladar couldn't steal every single game. What we didn't know is that Kadri would be this bad. We didn't know that Huberdeau would, even though he's produced a little bit more offense incrementally, he's been taking more penalties and worse defensively. Sharon Govich has been slow coming back from injury. Blake Coleman is on pace for like half the points he had last year at best. Do I need to keep going? Like, every single player on this team, except for Braden Pahal, Matthew Coronado, the goaltenders, Kevin Ball.
Yep.
Pretty much every Backlund's pretty well always the same, and Coleman's defense metrics good. But most of this team, let's say 3/4 of this team, is no better and in most cases worse than they were a year ago.
Why? I think the part of the problem that we're all having, and part of why my anger level is so high today, and I knew it was going to be a kind of a wild show, but I think it's because we had a start to the season that none of us really expected it would be that good, right?
Oh God, no.
So I mean, number one, did it give us false hopes? Yeah, we're stupid fans. It's going to give you false hopes. But on the flip side of that is, like, I knew this team was going to regress. I didn't think we were going to fall off a cliff like we did this last week.
No, and anybody who says they expected that is full of shit. Like, because again, I tweeted something to this effect, like, this isn't just regression. This is a monumental collapse. It's like they forgot how to play hockey at the highest level. And it won't last forever. They will get better, and maybe they play 500 the rest of the year and sneak into a playoff spot. Who the hell knows? But it's gut check time. So we were talking a week ago about maybe adding a player, but kind of like with the 14-15 Flames, people thought that was a good idea. Well, we're probably not going to be doing that. Or if we are, it's going to be a piece that makes sense long-term, which was always the plan anyway.
Which is almost, I don't want to say impossible, but
Well, then you're going to wind up having to trade, another high-end prospect, which is something else we need to talk about, actually. First of all, are we done with the misery for now?
I want one other thing, and it brings me to the X factor.
Okay.
And this week I've had some major frustrations, and I'm wondering how to deal with this team and what we're seeing. And Brett from Flames Pulse posts, so many lucky loggers required to put up with watching this tragic game from the Flames. The offense and penalty problems continue. I'm not sure how. I'm not a huge drinker anymore, Kyle. I'm not, and I am. I am fine watching my team struggle. I am. I expect that out of this team. I think we both do.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to see them struggle and lose games with 100% effort and progress. Glimpses of what we're going to see 2-3 years from now. And right now, I'm not seeing it. I'm sitting here going, how many more years we got, Kadri? How many more years do we got, Huberdeau?
Valid question at this point.
It's a scary situation. It's a scary situation.
So, I guess we're not done with the negativity because I'm going to use this. And thank you for the X factor there, Brett. That's well said. Unfortunately for me, I drank way too much last year's night. Will not be having any alcohol for a little while. That's a story for another day. Now, the problem is that all this talk about looking at the future, me excited about the future, and we knew this was a plan, and team tank, blah blah blah. 2 of our top prospects did not make the World Junior selection camp.
I know, and I also saw the and we're I know you're talking about Zane Parak and Misa, but and Moran too. I see that Cgy Ginla, Senek didn't make it either. Carter Yakimchuk didn't also. So there's a list of them, and which was a little surprising, right?
Well, Kent Wilson tweeted 2 things today that really struck me. He used the word astonishing about Parak and Moran, because Moran's having a monster season here in Moncton. I mean, the whole Wildcats team is, but huge season. Parak, arguably the most talented offensive defenseman in junior hockey, and one of the coaching staff in Saginaw is with this World Junior team, which makes it even more surprising. But where was I going with this? I'm losing my train of thought. So much negativity and just getting in my head.
I think it's a little surprising that some of these guys aren't going to get showcased, or at least given the opportunity to make this roster for Team Canada. And
that's what it was. Yeah. So Kent Wilson saying it was astonishing, but then he also said, and that this is something worth considering, the team you could build of the people who weren't picked would likely beat the team they did pick.
So what
now? Well,
are we questioning leadership?
Well, to me, my go-to argument in my head is to say, like, there's maybe I don't want to say character issues of the players. That's not fair to those players. But they're playing the whole high character guys for who they did select, who they think would be better teammates. Maybe they think Skill's not going to win this tournament. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm just trying to understand how they could possibly not select these players, because they've been absolute standouts for their respective teams. But you know what? The downside to this is it's not just that we don't get to see these players play as Flames fan. That includes Cgy Ginla, because let's be honest, he's always going to be something of Flames property in our hearts, at least. We don't. These kids are missing out on a prime development opportunity, and that's a shame.
It is, and it is the one tournament that we can kind of showcase and see the prospects and see them up against the not so much the competition, but the games when they mean the most, right?
Yep.
And
every scheduling report, that's what they look at. How did he perform in the World Juniors? He was a standout. Wore a letter for Team Canada or Team USA. It's like, okay, that's a draft pedigree or a prospect pedigree that it's amongst the biggest compliments you can pay a young player. So it's
wasn't Dylan Dubé a standout? Oh shoot, I drug into the tank again. I'm sorry.
Oof, yeesh. Talk about negativity.
Ugh. What's wrong with me? I need to pull my head out of my ass and be a little more positive.
You're dealing with some stuff, Brad. You're dealing with some stuff.
I'm dealing with no wins in a whole freaking week is what I'm dealing with. When somebody asked, who was it? Was it you? No, it wasn't you. Somebody asked me when they left on this 4-game road trip, how many points is a success? And I said 5.
Oh, we did talk about this.
Yeah, I said 5. We got fucking 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we sure did. So now we've talked enough about the past, a little bit about, or sorry, the present and the future. I do want to mention something about the past. So one of my birthday gifts, that birthday of mine that you forgot about, I got Mike Keenan's book.
Again.
Like, yeah, right. What? I got Mike Keenan's book.
Okay.
And I wouldn't normally do this because I am going to read the book in its entirety. But I also got Matt Sundin's book, which should also be a good read. But I jumped to the chapter about Mike's time coaching the Calgary Flames.
Oh boy.
And I don't want to spoil it because I think regardless of what you think of Mike Keenan, if John Tortorella releases a book someday, you're going to want to read it. And Keenan's no different. He basically states twice he wishes he had a third season. But what he mentioned that I forgot about was in the second season where they lost to the Blackhawks in 2009, their defense was ravaged by injuries. Robin Regeer didn't play at all. Corey Sarich was playing with a broken foot. Dion Phaneuf had some broken ribs. Their defense was wrecked. And they lost 4-2 to an up-and-coming Blackhawks team. And I couldn't help but think, if their defense had actually been healthy for that series, there's a good chance that series goes longer or Calgary beats them, because the Hawks weren't quite at cup caliber yet.
Oh, they weren't. They were building. They were a young team that was up and coming, but definitely didn't have the experience to get them over the hump, right?
No. So, and it's just, I remember where I was living at the time. Like I mentioned, I have Camilleri's home playoff jersey from that year. Those teams that shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't. And if you listen to Robin Regeer's more recent comments on Mike Keenan, it's unlikely they were going to do any better with him in his mind. But he's one of those coaches that was able to press the right buttons with certain players. I feel like Kinlan was one of them. And I'm curious to see how much further they could have gone. But we're going to be doing more reflection as we do some special episodes, as we talked about.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into that kind of stuff. But it's one of the few times I read a book and I saw the chapter was actually called Up in Flames. And I jumped right to it. And it was a quick read, but it was an interesting read. And I'm always curious to see in hindsight how these people feel about their time in Calgary.
But I when you're talking about Mike Keenan, I actually really want to read that book, simply because sometimes reading books about guys who, I don't want to say didn't get a fair shake, but got a fair shake. But probably made the Betties line in now, but with being so non-liked, that's probably a bad way to put it. Unliked.
No, it's fair. He admits that himself.
But I do want to read some of the methods behind that madness, right?
Yep. Yeah, he got the absolute best of the Mark Messier, who was pretty damn good anyway. So
yeah,
it's anyway, it's just stuff that makes you think. But to get back to the situation at hand, obviously there's going to be a very emotional game in Calgary between Calgary and Columbus, and a large portion of the Gaudreau family will be in attendance for that. So it's going to be a really nice night regardless of the game, but hopefully the game is an opportunity for the Flames to turn things around.
It's a difficult situation, and I wanted to touch base on this quick because it is going to be a sad night with the Blue Jackets coming to town. And I don't want to sound like a guy that doesn't, I care a lot. Maybe I run from difficult situations like this, where it's I'm going to be glad when it's done, just so that we'll never move on from Johnny Gaudreau and his memories and the good. I want to move on from the sadness, right? And that's way easier said than done. And I don't know, maybe that's just me running from emotions, right? I don't know. It's going to be an emotional night. It's going to be a sad night. I'm super happy that the Gaudreaus are in town, and Guy looked like he was on the ice today having a really good time with the players. And
yeah, it was good to see that. I enjoyed that a lot, actually.
Yeah, and it just comes at a real difficult time because this game is super important for the Flames. And I'm not making excuses that they're not going to play hard because they're going to be emotional. Who knows? Maybe it's the spark they need to get things going, right? You can look at this 100 different ways, right? But we're coming off a pretty spicy, feisty game against Columbus on, was it Black Friday? And now these 2 points at home, if the Flames lose this one, this just keeps that snowball rolling and even boosts that negativity up. And boy, we need to stop it right now, because these shows, I love doing these no matter what we're talking about, but they're, we got done recording last week, when it was all positive and the train was rolling down the tracks the right way, it was exciting, right? And And that's what we want as fans and hosts of this show. We want success, and we're not trying to be. We're trying to be truthful and honest on how we're viewing it and how the fans are viewing it, and we're in tune with the social medias and stuff. And things were tough this week for the Flames and for the Flames fans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think we all kind of get caught up in the early success and how couldn't we? And some people said, "Oh, we knew this would happen. We knew this would happen." It's like, okay, whatever. Well, still, that's the emotional side of being a fan, right? So, you swear at the TV, tweet a few things when you're angry, but we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, it's been interesting to say the least, and I really think it's good. If you subtract the injury factor, it's good that a few guys like Pelche and Dewar get a chance to jump back in the island, provide the lineup, provide some energy, and hopefully start to turn this around. But it's gut check time. We'll see how the team responds. We'll see how the veteran players respond. I suspect Wolf will be in net. He'll be looking to have a big game. And emotions are brewing high. So ideally, this game is going to be a turning point, and then we can at least start to tread water instead of tanking, as it were.
I am super happy though that the Gaudreaus are here, and that it's going to be a sense of closure for the fan base and the players and the team, and super happy, super excited for that. Thursday, St. Louis comes to town, and then Sunday, Calgary heads to Dallas for a quick 2-game road trip that includes Nashville, 3 time zones, and then back home for Tampa Bay, Florida. The road does not get any easier, Kyle. Oh.
Nope. There's a good chance I'll be at that Panthers game. So, if I can make that happen, then I'll bring some podcast t-shirts with me as well. Perfect. A few of our peeps. So, but yeah, it's not getting any easier, as you said. But, there's a holiday break coming, and maybe that's what they, and most certainly us, may need.
You know what?
Us being Flames fans everywhere.
Negativity aside, I mean, hey, having the Gaudreaus here, it puts things in perspective. We forget and we lose track sometimes.
Just a sport.
This is just a sport, and life is way more important. And we do this for fun. But you know what, Kyle? Next week, I have no idea what direction we'll be talking. Last week was happy. This week was hell. Is it positive next week? I don't know. Buckle down, Flames fans.
Oh, we shall see.
The road is going to be bumpy.
Hang in there, everybody. We're here with you, suffering, celebrating, some weird bipolar mix of the two. Anyway, we're gonna do what we can, support one another, get through it, and we'll chat with you again next week.
All right, friends. Take care. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on FlamesUnfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.